Today we're going to make a simple little fat quarter friendly drawstring tote bag. This bag is lined and can be created with either drawstrings or handles or both. This cute bag is Halloween themed and makes the perfect trick-or-treat bag for little Tyke, but any fabric design could be used to fit any occasion. Without the handles, this makes the perfect gift bag, and the skills learned in this tutorial can translate to any size bag. Before we get started, let's take a look at the materials and tools we'll be using for our project. As part of the 2025 Stitch in Atlanta Shop Hop, I popped into Cottontail Quilts in Kennesaw, Georgia, and I found rooms and rooms of gorgeous fabric. If you're ever in the neighborhood, I highly recommend stopping by. If you're not, I will link their website in the description below so that you can check out their selection. In addition to 2 fat quarters, this project requires some medium weight fusible interfacing, cotton twill tape, and standard sewing notions including straight edge ruler, fabric scissors and snips, and fabric markers. Specific to this project, we're going to want a safety pin to thread our drawstring and some fray check. You may choose to use a little bit of fabric glue during the construction process, but that is optional. You will definitely need your iron and either an ironing board or ironing mat. Shown here are the cutting dimensions for the cotton fabric, the medium weight fusible interfacing, and the cotton twill tape. Technically for this project you could use other textiles. Keep in mind that if it's a heavier textile you would not need to use interfacing. If you choose to use cotton, quilt cotton, it could be scraps, it doesn't have to be fat quarters, but this is how you would lay it out on the fat quarters. All the fabric pieces for our project are cut and prepped. The interfacing has been centered on the wrong sides of the fabric pieces and attached according to manufacturer's instructions. We have interfacing on our exterior main panels and our interior lining panels, plus on the fabric for our handles. The casings do not require any interfacing. We want to keep those as light as possible. When selecting thread, keep in mind that you'll have some top stitching that's visible on your handles as well as the drawstring casings and the drawstrings themselves. With all of these materials ready to go, we are going to get started on the drawstring casings. To create the casings, you'll need your 2 casing pieces, some fray check, a straight edge ruler, a heat erase marker, and your iron and ironing matter board. The first thing we're going to do is fray check these short ends of each casing piece. We've got the short ends fray checked. I have already done this and I've let them dry so we can continue to mark our folds. I'm going to mark the folds that we're going to make on each short end of the casing by using my ruler and making a line a 1/4 inch in from the end. I'm going to do that on all 4 ends. Okay, these lines are going to help us make our folds so that we can finish off these edges. I am going to turn my fabric right side down and fold up to the line that I drew and then press. I'm going to do that for each of the 4 short ends. Okay, I have folded and pressed. I folded right along that line that I drew on each of the 4 ends. Now I'll take this to my machine and top stitch across each end. Our casings have their little side hems all complete, and we are ready to fold them over right sides out. We're folding them in half lengthwise and pressing. Now I'm going to take these casings to the machine and base stitch this bottom raw edge to hold them together nicely until we're ready to use them a little bit later in the construction process. To prepare our drawstrings, we are going to take our 30-inch lengths of 1/2-inch twill tape and just seal off these raw ends. We're going to repeat this step for all 4 raw edges, and all we're going to do is fold a double fold and then take it to our machine and sew back and forth across those double folds to seal in these ends. Now, I like to use a little bit of fabric glue to hold these folds in place, but that's completely optional, and you're welcome to use fabric glue or not. These drawstrings are all ready, and I'm going to set them aside until later, and we are going to work on our handles. For these handles, we will turn the fabric right side down and fold these long sides in towards center and press them. Because I've centered the interfacing here, that interfacing makes a really nice guide, and I just fold it around that interfacing. Once these ends are folded in, we are enclosing those raw edges. I'm going to fold one more time and press really well. Okay, at this stage, I'm going to put a couple of clips to hold this in place. I'm going to repeat this step with the other handle, and then I'm going to take both of these to the machine and top stitch along both sides at about 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now that all of our individual components are constructed, we're ready to get to the fun part. We're going to assemble our bag. We're going to start with the exterior, and we're going to start with one exterior panel and then repeat these steps with the second exterior panel. So for each panel, we're going to want the exterior panel, one handle piece, and one drawstring casing piece. Have your marking pen ready, your fabric marker, your straight edge, and a few clips. The first thing we're going to do is attach our handle, and that's going to be attached at this top edge, 3 inches in from each top corner. So I'm going to use my marker and my ruler just to make a little mark 3 inches in on each side. Then I'll use a couple clips to attach the handle. Okay, I'm letting this handle hang over very slightly, and just to make sure it doesn't get crooked, I can use either a little bit of fabric glue under there, or I could use 2 clips so that it stays straight. Now I will base stitch this at the machine the same time I do the second panel. So I'm going to set this aside and repeat this step for the second panel. At this point, it's a really good idea to make sure that you have snipped all of your loose threads, whether they're your little tail ends or fraying threads. Clean up the project a little because that will make assembly so much nicer, and when we turn everything, we won't have little threads hanging out all over the place. With our handle on, we're ready to do the casing, and I am just going to center that across the top with this raw edge facing up where the raw edge of the fabric is. And if it helps to use a ruler to make sure that's really nice and centered, go ahead and grab a ruler or eyeball it, whatever your comfort level is. And I want to make sure that's as straight as possible, and then clip or pin it in place and baste this on. We're going to repeat this step for the other exterior panel, basting them both on just like we did the handle. It is now time to connect our exterior panels with our interior lining panels. And to do this, we are going to repeat this step for each exterior and interior set. I'm going to put right sides together. I'll move these out of the way so they're not a distraction. I've got right sides together, making sure that this casing and handle are tucked in nicely. And I am just going to line up these top corners and edge and clip in place. I'll repeat this step for the other set, and then I'll take both of them to the sewing machine and stitch up this top seam. Okay, let's open up our panels and see how they look. There we go. We have the two sides of our flat tote bag, and these are all ready to sew together. So our next step, we are going to lay this cord channel, casing, and handle down towards the lining. I'm going to flip this over so that we've got right sides together, tucking all those parts in nicely. And now I'm going to have my seam allowance facing towards our exterior fabric, and I am going to match up these seams so that those seam allowances match up perfectly, because that's going to show in our end result. I want that to look really, really nice. And then I am just going to match up all of the sides and corners. With our exterior panels lined up and our lining interior lined up, we are now ready to sew this together. And I am going to sew all 4 sides, but I am going to leave a 6-inch opening in our lining because we're going to turn the bag through that near the end. I'm just going to take my ruler so that I don't forget to leave that opening. I'm going to make some marks here at the bottom, and I will start sewing here, backstitch really well to reinforce that, and go all the way around until I get back to my next mark where I'll backstitch really well again. Just a pro tip about sewing up linings. For these lining panels, when I sewed them together, I increased my seam allowance coming down the sides and the bottom so that that lining will lay better inside our bag. It won't be as baggy in there. So that's just a pro tip. It's not such a big deal when you're just making a tote bag, but I still like to do it. It just helps the end result a little bit. It is time to put my hand through the hole in the bottom and pull everything through. This is the fun part where our bag comes together. I've got the whole thing turned through the birthing hole so that our fabric is right side out and we can see what our bag's going to look like. I've pressed out all these corners and used my iron to press this seam shut where the birthing hole is, clip that in place. I'm going to take this to the machine and stitch that birthing hole closed. Then we'll tuck the lining in and be ready to install our drawstring. Okay, it's time to tuck this lining in. I'm reaching in there to make sure those corners are poked out nicely. And that lays so well in there. You can see how nice that looks. Okay, how cute is that? Now all we've got left is to install the drawstring, and for this step we'll need our safety pin and our drawstring cords. I like to put the safety pin through the top of this fold. I'm not actually poking it through the twill tape, like through the fabric, but I'm trying to get it inside the folds of fabric. That way it doesn't stress out that delicate fabric there. See how I have it tucked between those folds? And now we are gonna pick a side to feed this through. And that safety pin makes it really easy. And once it comes out one side, I'm just going to tuck it right back through on the other side. Okay, so our first drawstring is completely threaded, and I'm going to take my safety pin off, match up these ends, and tie a knot. Just want to make sure I've got plenty of give so that opens all the way. Okay, now I'm ready to do the other drawstring, and I'm going to do the exact same thing, thread my needle through. And now I'm going to start threading at the other side, the opposite end. And that concludes our Drawstring Tote tutorial. This adorable bag is now ready for a little ghost or goblin to take trick-or-treating, and it cinches closed to keep the candy safe. If you have any questions or suggestions, drop them in the comments below. If you appreciate this content, please like and subscribe. And until next time, happy sewing!